When Pokemon Sword and Shield were first announced, my first thought was basically, meh. I'm not sure if it's because the series has been going on for so long, or I've just lost a little bit of childhood wonder as the years have gone on, but Pokemon has not really been that exciting to me in a while. Don't get me wrong though, I've still played at least one game from each generation to completion. They're fun games, but I don't really get that excited about them anymore. So I was a bit surprised when Sword and Shield launched, and there were publications claiming they were the best Pokemon games ever. I thought that had to be literally impossible. Nothing about them looked that special. Other reviewers seemed to think the same as I, though, and were criticizing it pretty heavily. So with such diametrically opposed views on the games, I decided it was time to form my own opinion. And while I definitely would not say that they're the greatest Pokemon games ever, I would actually lean towards more that opinion than the more critical ones. Like their predecessors, Sword and Shield are nearly identical, barring a few small variations. That being said, my experience was with Pokemon Shield. Now, this is not a really super common opinion, but one of the reasons I personally like the game so much is that the story is so much more focused. The A plot of the mainline series has always been about completing the gym challenge, and that is still the case here. But the games have also always had a Team Rocket-like group who would pop up every now and then and cause trouble, and that was usually the catalyst for the player encountering the mascot legendary Pokemon. The villainous team in Sword and Shield are simply rabid fanboys of one of your rivals. They have no nefarious plot, and by doing this, any time spent dealing with them is, at worst, still tangentially related to the gym challenge. And boy has the gym challenge been ramped up. In the Galar region, the gym challenges are treated like major sporting events, and I cannot understate how much life this breathes into the gym challenges. Because the gym battles are major events, they are televised and there are far more competitors than just one rival. Everyone in the game treats you kind of like a celebrity, and this really helps highlight the progress you make as you go through the game. The one negative of this is that the plotline involving the mascot legendaries is a bit of an afterthought. The lore comes up all throughout the game, but you are largely told to ignore it by the NPCs because they'll handle it. Some people will take issue with this, but I liked it because it keeps your goal to finish the gym challenge in focus. As for the gameplay, it's Pokemon. The series hasn't changed much since its inception. The main noteworthy additions here are camping, Dynamaxing, and the wild area. The first, camping, is essentially these games' version of Pokemon Ami and Poffins. You can set up camp and interact with your Pokemon as well as make them curry to increase their affection. If you set up camp in the wild area, other players can visit. It's not a very significant addition, but it by no means harms the game, and it can be very fun to try and come up with new types of curries, and it can also be useful for affection-based evolutions. Dynamaxing is the game's answer to Mega Evolutions, or Z-moves, which are now absent. During certain battles, you can choose one Pokemon to Dynamax for 3 turns, which grants it more HP and access to different moves. Some Pokemon can change forms when Dynamaxing, which is then referred to as Gigantamaxing. Again, this doesn't add a whole lot to the game since it's restricted to certain battles, mainly gym battles and raids. Raids themselves are found in the wild area, which has various lairs that house Dynamax Pokemon that are fought with 3 other players, either AI or actual humans. Honestly, it's kind of hard to find people to join you online, and the AI companions can be monumentally stupid. So sometimes these battles can be aggravating, but they can net you unique and or Gigantamax Pokemon. They also net you experience candy. These candies are amazing if you like feeling overpowered, but they kind of break the game because they let you severely overlevel your Pokemon. Personally, I liked the feature, but I've always been kind of a fan of RPGs that let you become stupidly OP. But I can see how others would think it makes the game far too easy. The wild area also houses standard Pokemon encounters that change depending on which area you're in and what the weather is like. Pokemon encounters operate similarly to the Let's Go games in the overworld, meaning you can see wild Pokemon in the wild before you initiate a battle. Some Pokemon can only be found in wrestling grass, whose Pokemon inside is a mystery, however. So if not that much has changed, why do I like these games so much? Well, as I said before, I cannot understate how much the framing of the gym challenge elevates the game. It's more immersive than it's ever been. Admittedly, there isn't a huge endgame, but honestly the endgames of Pokemon games recently haven't been that great in general. I also want to touch on the National Dex issue. Personally, this didn't really affect me too much. I did want a Volcarona, but that was the only Pokemon whose absence I really noticed, and it's one that has since been patched in. Yeah, it sucks that so many Pokemon are left out, even with patches, but I think it's a little unreasonable to expect all of them in at this point, given the sheer number. Completing the Pokedex for the Shiny Charm is also a lot more viable this way. I think whether or not the incomplete Pokedex will bother you is going to be determined by how many of your favorites made it in. Overall, Pokemon Sword and Shield is still more Pokemon. Not a whole lot has changed, and while some new mechanics add a bit of novelty, the core of the game remains the same. What really enhances the overall experience, however, is the new narrative framing of the gym challenge, which turns a plot point that could have been extremely stale at this point into the very thing that makes these some of the best Pokemon games in years.